What's up? My name is Jen. I am a figure painter and a content creator, and welcome to Paint Along With Me episode 1. Today we're going to be painting this little coffee cup picture, and you only need 3 colors to do it. If you don't already know me, I create content about all things creative living because I know what it feels like to completely lose your creative spark in life and never again, as long as I have a say in it. I make content to make sure that you get it back. So grab some watercolor paints or some popcorn if you're just here to watch. That's all good too. Before we get started, click the thumbs up and hit subscribe. If I told you it'd make my cat Tazo incredibly happy, would you do it? Subscribe to give Tazo a treat. Anyway, onto the video. To follow this paint along, you'll need water, a brush, a piece of paper, and only 3 colors: red, blue, and burnt sienna, which is like a brown kind of color. Let's get settled and take just a moment to look at our reference photo. I always like to say that 80% of drawing well is looking well, so let's take a look. We're going to create the initial sketch with our red paint, so go ahead and hydrate your red color and get ready to draw. To create the coffee cup, we're going to make 1 wide oval and then 2 lines downward. If your lines are a little wiggly, just shrug it off, keep on scribbling. These little wiggly lines do add an element of hominess and coziness to the painting that wouldn't otherwise be there. So embrace your little waviness. Embrace your little curvy, weird lines. Believe me, at the end of this painting, when all of it comes together, all those little moments of it's not perfect, actually add to the final painting and really make it feel nice and cozy. For the spoon, keep that waviness going. It's just going to be 1 lumpy circle, and then the handle are 2 lumpy little lines that just kind of swap, swap, swap. Anytime I am using a photo reference to create a painting, a lot of times I like to get imaginative and fun with it. So it's time for the imaginary croissant. For the croissant, I really simplified it into just this big wavy circle motion, which is just so fun to make. The 2 sides of it are little triangular moments. So, you can add anything to this table that you want to. For me, it was a croissant. Here, I added the edge of the table. Having it cut across diagonally adds a certain element of pizzazz into the composition. At first, I didn't totally love the placement, which is why I moved it up a little bit, but like I said, even if you put lines down that maybe you aren't the happiest with, just leave them there and just kind of keep working. A lot of times, these little moments of I changed my mind add this really cool energy into the piece. Now we're still staying with the red color and just adding a little bit of shadow and dimension into some of these shapes. There's a little bit of a napkin under the plate, which I'm shading in here now. And here we switch to burnt sienna, so use your water to clear out that brush and pick up some of that burnt sienna color and make some wavy motions. It's crucial to leave the white of the page in kind of this S-like shape because that's going to be the foam or the reflection off the coffee. The steam. I love this part. So this is going to be your burnt sienna color. I did mix it with a teeny bit of my red, but honestly, straight burnt sienna is probably also really good as a color. You're going to make this kind of S swirly kind of shape. You're going to make 2 of them. One's going to be large and one's going to be a little smaller up towards the top. Realizing now I forgot the handle for the cup, so adding that on, just 2 small little C shapes. And then we're switching back to red, taking a very small amount of paint and a lot of water on the brush to really add in the shadows and dimension for the different objects. And then I'm going to clean up some of these edges, add a lot of pigment to my brush, very little water, and just clean up some of these lines around the edges. Here I've added some shadows under the spoon before I go into the croissant to color that guy in. So the shadows under the spoon are with this red color. For the shadows, I'm using this sweeping motion. There's a little bit of dry brush in there, you can see, but mostly you want to just be sketchy with it, be loose with it. That's what adds this hominess, this coziness, this energy into the piece. And then we're switching to burnt sienna so that we can color in the croissant. Notice I do not touch the red swirly edges of the croissant. I keep the color scarce and inside. I leave some of the white of the page to show up. I think it adds a nice little dimension, a nice little coziness to the painting to have these moments where white shows through. You'll notice that there's a little bit of a gradient. At the bottom, there's a lot of pigment, and then you use clear water to drag upward, and the color gets less intense. After you have that cute little gradient, you can pop a tiny bit, a drop of color at the top to give it this cool, washy feel, that it's this three-dimensional circular form. Next, we're going to block in the top part of the painting with a nice cerulean blue. So the way that I'm doing this is I'm dropping the pigment on first, and then I'm completely clearing out my brush and bringing the clear water on top of that pigment to spread it around the page. I really think that this blue color gives the painting a feeling of calmness, of serenity, of peacefulness, which is the reason why I'm using this blue color. It's also nice to note that the blue is a perfect complement for the burnt sienna color, which is on the orange side of the spectrum, so I really do think that these colors work together as a palette. They're one of my favorite palettes to use in general when I paint. So because you have this entire expanse of blank page at the top, I really want to encourage you to experiment with the different amount of water versus pigment on your brush. In some areas, you can use a lot of pigment, a deep blue, a very blue, and then in other areas, make it very light, make it a very small amount of color so that there's this washiness to it and you really do create some sort of blue sky that's hanging above your coffee cup. Be careful to go around your edges. Don't touch your blue to any other color. You'll notice that there is a thin white line between my horizon and the blue color that starts. That's very intentional because if that blue color does touch some part of the red or some part of that steam that's in the burnt sienna color, it'll start to blur together, and we really do want this crisp edge. The crisp edge is really what invokes this feeling of confidence into the painting. Even if you have some wiggly lines here and there, if you keep the crisp edge, it'll tell the viewer, yeah, I made this decision and I'm sticking by it. I think that's a really nice element to add. Alrighty, we're finishing up the blue wash above the coffee cup. I hope that you can feel the serenity that's really starting to come alive inside your painting. So the next thing that we're going to do is we're preparing to color in the rest of the table. For this, we're going to use burnt sienna. So once you're done with the sky above your coffee cup, go ahead and wash off your brush and get that burnt sienna color in. I'm starting very dark on the horizon, and then I'm going to, again, be very careful not to touch my burnt sienna to any other edge. That way, our edges stay very clean. Blocking in these colors always takes probably the most amount of time, at least for me, whenever I'm painting, and it really does allow you a little moment to reflect and to think about either life or to think about your painting even. I really love these moments where you can really play with the amount of space you have to fill up. It's a moment to be able to play around with how much water versus pigment you're going to use, how you're going to treat the surface, how you're going to make it feel different than other areas of the painting. So just keep that in mind as you're filling in the rest of your table. And at times, sometimes I feel like it feels a little bit like painting in a paint by numbers or a coloring book at this point. It's just pretty relaxing and I do love it. Alrighty, we are nearing the end of the painting, which is really a fun and exciting time. Do you ever feel like sometimes whenever you're done painting, it's like you are almost afraid to stop, or you're not ready to stop because you're just having a ball. So here I am, just kind of fixing up the edges a little bit. Sometimes I like to bring it all the way to the end. Sometimes I like to leave a little bit of some white space. It really depends on your framing options. If you do want to end up framing it, for this one I just chose to leave a little bit of a white border. I do like the look of edge versus paint. So yeah, we did it. If you made it this far, I'm so curious to see what your painting looks like. You can find me on Instagram. If you want to like post it and tag me, or if you're too shy, you can DM it to me too. But I'm super curious to see what your little paint along looked like. Or if you were just here along for the ride just to watch, leave a little comment about what you thought about this little painting tutorial, little paint along adventure. I do hope you gained a little bit of something from this video. Again, it really does help if you like the video or subscribe to my channel. I know that there are so many things that you can choose to do with your day, and choosing to spend any amount of time here on this channel with me is truly a gift. I really do consider it a gift, and for that, this humble artist says thank you.